Alright, today doing one on this Commercial Communications Model 6 MB-100, 6 meters supposedly, bilinear amplifier made by FIS Commercial Communications, made in the USA. More power to you, yay. Actually, though it says 6 meters, it's got the coil in there for 10 meters, and if you just retap the coil, this will work on 10 meters with just one coil retap. And it doesn't have a tuned input, so basically you don't need to do anything there. 2-tube linear amplifier using 6LQ6 tubes. Has a receive preamp. The receive preamp does not work on this one. Everything else does. Power on off switch, standby switch, power on LED. Got a RF indicator light, or power light instead of a meter, so the brighter the light, the more power is putting out. Or you can adjust it if you don't have a watt meter for the brightness of the indicator light. Has a screwdriver adjust, tune and load, standard pi output circuit, tune, load, and the coil, tank coil. Again, not a tuned input. Uses two 6LQ6 tubes in grounded grid. Can't find hardly any information on this on the net, and I didn't go completely through it and reverse engineer it and do all that, but from what I did, go through and see a basic grounded grid amplifier, not a swinger, modulator, no special circuitry for anything like that. Again, a basic grounded grid amplifier. First thing I do all of them is change the caps. Before I power it up or do anything else. These are the original electrolytics out of it. There was another low voltage one, but I must have threw it away. These are the high voltage here, and you can see it buckling a little bit, dried out. Often you power these up, they may work, but it's like driving on a ball tire. You got your mileage out of it, it's ready to go. I don't care if you've been driving on it for 5 years and got 50,000 miles or 100,000 miles on them. It's time to let them go. Replace those caps. They dry out with age. They go by with age. Don't care how much you used them or didn't use them or do anything with them. They dry out. They go bad. And again, they may work, they may read okay, but when they short, a lot of times they'll take out the high voltage diodes and then the high voltage transformer. So I always replace them. Replace the low voltage while you're in there. First thing I do. Then I check the tubes. I check the diodes with the multimeter on diode test. Check the tubes with a tube tester. Make sure your fuse is the correct fuse. You'll see amplifiers where it requires a 5 amp or 10 amp, and the person will put a 25 amp fuse in there, and like, wow, you just basically trying to let the smoke out. So we do all that, did all that with this one already. We variacted up after we got the new caps in there. Tubes good, diodes good, fuse good. Cleaned it up, gave it a little steam bath, and then blew it out. Cleaned it up. Looks nice. Came out nice. Very good looking, I think. It's got a few things I don't like, even though it's a basic grounded grid amp. It's got the tubes mounted horizontally. I'm not sure if that's a good idea with sweep tubes. If you can do that and get away with it or not, I don't know, but it's not the best idea. But worse than that, tubes again on a circuit board. Everything's mounted to that one circuit board, actually two. That little piggyback board is the preamp board for the receive preamp, and again, that's not working, and I don't feel like unsoldering all that to go through it for a untuned preamp anyway. It's not going to be the best preamp you can get. So we don't like horizontally mounted tubes. We don't like the tubes mounted on a circuit board. That's asking for trouble. Another thing we don't like, no fan, no cooling in it. I guess they figure they can get away with it with just 2 tubes and basically a 100-watt amplifier peak maybe, with great tubes. These tubes are only 70%, so I'm not getting full output in them. Uses 6LQ6s, which ain't cheap. Another thing, it's got a small transformer in it. You know, that transformer is probably good for, you know, a good 50 watts out of it. You do too much more than that for too long, it's gonna pop it. And I like my stuff to work. I don't abuse it. So you keep it like 50 watts or under. It should work, you know, a long time. Don't abuse it. Don't stay on it with the no cooling, no fan, tubes mounted to a board. You overdrive it or stay on it too long, you're asking for trouble, because you know it is what it is, a small little, you know, 100-watt peak, 50-watt amplifier, using 2 6LQ6s in grounded grid configuration, right? I do like it's compact, small, you know, a little 50-watter might make a decent driver if you need something, you know, that small for a driver. Or even if you know you like to not have big power and just want a little something, a little 50-watt amplifier is fairly clean. And then we do like the compact size of it. Over here, let me get a pointer, insulated pointer. We have the 2 6LQ6 tubes here. The pins start, you know, you look for the gap, you know, in the pins, and the gap is right here. So that would be, it goes clockwise when you're looking at it from underneath. So that would be pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9 pin tubes for the 6LQ6s and family. Reason I brought that up is if you look at this little schematic diagram of the tubes, you can see with this, so the 6LQ6s, and I did it in yellow, pin 1 and pin 7 are tied together. You got 2 outputs for pin 1 and 7. That's the screen grid or the turbo grid. And then pins 2 and pin 6 are tied together in the 6LQ6s, and that would be grid 1. What happens when you start substituting different tubes, not all of them have these tied together. So on some amps they might have it, the ground or the drive or whatever going into pin 2 and out of pin 6 since they're tied together. So what happens when you have a tube replacement that doesn't have pin 6 tied to pin 2 and you put it in the same amp? You get some substitute. What's a substitute for a 6LQ6? 6JE6, but I think they're, you know, the same, but you get a different substitute and it doesn't have, you know, pin 2 and 6 tied together. You put it in that amp and, you know, it goes into pin 2 and it's supposed to go out of pin 6 into the pin 2 of the next tube, and it can't because 6 isn't tied to that. Or, you know, pin 1 and 7, you know, the same principle. So when you switch tubes and you get no output, that's one thing to look for, is to look at your tube base wiring and see if you can figure it out, that a lot of tubes, the base might be slightly different than it. And that's all I wanted to show on that. And over here is the connections for the 6LQ6. This is just something I printed out right quick with my new Epson printer because I got cartridge with my HP to get off subject. And my HP, I bought some bootleg ink off eBay, which I've done in the past, and it worked great, you know, for a much cheaper price with the bootleg than the HP ink. But I stuck it in this time, and the HP printer said nope, not gonna work. You need to get factory ink, and HP gave an update And HP's update pretty much makes you buy factory ink now. So the new ink I bought and my printer is pretty much worthless unless I want to spend a ton of money for HP ink, which I didn't. So I just went ahead and bought that Epson cartridge that Shaq advertised that, you know, got ink wells in it, and you just pour the ink in the ink well. And I bought that, got it at Costco for a good price, and so far so good. Hopefully I won't get cartridged again. But anyway, off subject, we tested the diodes, tested the tubes, made sure we got the right fuse in there. If I remember right, it's a little 5 amp fuse, so sounds about right. Somebody didn't put a 50 amp or just bypass the fuse in it. Replaced the caps and everything looks okay, except again the preamp don't work. And again, I didn't want to unsolder all that just to mess with a preamp that ain't, you know, pretty much useless on these anyway. So that's the give and take of this amplifier. Tune and load. It uses a little trimmer for the low air variable for the tune your tank coil. These smaller amps, you need more coil than the bigger amps. You know, I always say the 3500Zs, 572Bs, you know, 6 tube, even the 4 turns. It's like 4 turns. But with these smaller little amps like this and black hat modulators and, you know, little amps like that, you will see more turns than the 4 turns. And I think that's about all we wanted to talk about. So we're going to turn it on. I use this power strip already plugged in and on to save the on-off switch, because you know, I would say this amp is 50 years old, give or take, and you turn it on and off so many times, sooner or later that switch is going to go. So on my amps, most of the time when I think about it, I use the power strip to turn them on and off, and that way it saves on the wear and tear in the life of the power switch there, right? Basic amp. One thing I wanted to mention is always tune for maximum again. I was at a radio doctor's CB shop, and the radio doctor, he's good, he knew, but he had a customer come in, a local, you know, and the customer is talking about, yeah, he takes care of his amps, he dials them down. Of course, that got my attention. I'm like, what? How are you dialing them down? And he was like, yeah, you know, I tune them down. I'm like, how do you do that? What amp you got that you can tune it down like that? And he had a Mako 300, and he was like, I just dial it down. And I was like, no, Mako 300 don't have a like a tuner or a drive thing that you can dial it down. You're mistuning that amplifier. One of the worst things you could do. And he looked at me like I was Frankenstein or from outer space, and I looked at him and was like, oh man, you don't evidently watch my videos. And of course he didn't. He never heard of me. You know, not internet savvy very much, but he was proud that he takes care of his amps and he dials them down. And I'm like, don't do that. You're making the tubes eat them watts. And you know, again, he was, you know, listening to me and like, might as well have been a Martian. But anyway, tune for max. Most amps, including the Makos, don't have a tuner in them where you can dial it down. And then he finally said, well, mine's got a special tuner on the side that I dial it down with. And I'm like, the tuner on the side is the driver tune. You tune the drivers. All you're doing is mistuning the drivers. You're making the driver tubes eat them watts. And again, he was like, tram doctor's crazy. But anyway, we thought this was going to be a quickie, but we didn't got long-winded and off subject. Keying it down, you see the RF light, you know, going on. Hello. Again, not a modulator amp. Got both watt meters in line together. That's the watts going in on the 20 watt scale. So we did keying 4 watts. Audio. Talking about 7 going into the amp. And then this one's the 200 watt scale going into the dummy load on the output side. Audio, and it's dead keying 30, and it's swinging about 70 peak. Didn't mean to leave it on peak. I usually do average first, but hey, I'm getting old. So dead key in about 27. Audio. Talking about 45. Again, those tubes aren't 100%. Shh. Shishing to about 55. Audio. I'm doing about 70 peak. Real hot here in Detroit. We got the heat wave going on. Line voltage is a little bit low, or about 114. Normally line voltage at my place is about 123, something like that. So it'd do a little bit more when the line voltage is a little bit higher. But again, that's all this little amp is made for. It do a little bit more with new tubes, but I'm not going to invest with new tubes to get, 25 more watts or so out of it. 2.6 LQ6s, Sylvania, somewhere on it. I think this is live, so don't want to zoom in and get it too clear. Not going to get too close to it. Sylvania tubes only. Wonder why. That makes no sense to me, but anyway, who am I? Alright, that's going to be it for the 10 meter, 6 meter FISC commercial communication 6 MB-100. Because I did one before. I had one, sold it. Don't even remember where I got this one from. Tram Doctor's got too many toys. Alright, that's it for this one. Bye.